pretty excited about today. We have come to Holstebro in Denmark, which is the home of Ceramicspeed. And we are now going to take a tour around their factory and headquarters to see exactly how they're making bikes faster. Let's take a look inside. It's going to be cool. The aim of Ceramicspeed is pretty simple, to make bikes faster by saving watts and to make them more reliable as well. Their product line currently includes bearings for your bottom bracket, for your wheels and also for your headset, plus Jockey wheels and also a coating for your chain called UFO. Then the first thing that you see as you come into their entrance and hallway is a load of bikes down here on the side, mainly for the staff to use for training. But we've got a couple of ex-pro bikes here, including this one from Jakob Fuglsang and this from Marco Pinotti, plus a whole host of signed jerseys on the wall, including three from three-time world champion Peter Sagan. But what I particularly like about this entrance is this physical example of exactly what they do. So the top line up here all has ceramic bearings inside from Ceramicspeed, and the bottom doesn't. And really, having that physical representation in front of you is quite telling. Now, before we get on to the next part of the factory, I want to show you this bike at the end. We really can't go on without taking a closer look. This is the very, very aerodynamic recumbent bike of the founder of Ceramicspeed, Jakob. Apparently he broke his arm, wanted to carry on riding a bike, and this is what he had designed and made for him. I think even I could go fast on that. In fact, I might give it a go later, if he lets me. Ooh. It's a bit claustrophobic. Ceramicspeed was first introduced to cycling back in the year 2000 by its founder, Jakob Sismadia. He first used ceramic bearings himself back in 1998 and became the first person to surpass 500 kilometers in 24 hours on inline skates. And he did so in a supermarket because it was faster. And it's that same tunnel vision, that same attention to detail and drive that he brings to all the products that Ceramicspeed now produce. And every single one of those products is handmade right here in Denmark. Before we go on with the factory tour proper, just want to show you quickly into this small workshop. The company itself was founded by Jakob in 2004, and initially it was just in his house. Then in 2007, he outgrew his house and moved here. Although at that point it was little more than this workshop and basically not a lot else. It has now expanded significantly to what you will see on this video today, plus offices over in Boulder and Bangkok as well. This workshop is now used for prototype parts as well as a place for the staff to work on their own bikes. So to give you an example, the 3T bike that you see here has got a prototype oversized pulley wheel system for 1x group sets to help reduce the friction there. Pretty cool though that the staff get to work all these great tools on their bikes. Right, let's go over to the production room now. That's where they are making OEM bearings and upgrade kits for the likes of Trek, Canyon, Zip and Specialized. This is where a lot of the magic happens. They're currently in the midst of making a batch of 3,000 bearings for DT Swiss internals. The balls themselves are sourced from the only two places in the world which meet the tolerances that are required by Ceramicspeed. One of those is in Europe and one is in North America. And that is as specific as they would get with us because for obvious reasons, they don't really want to reveal their sources. These are grade 3 balls and the tolerances of these are really quite incredible. So the lower the grade, the better the quality of the ball. Grade 1 actually doesn't even exist at the moment, and grade 2 has only ever been used by people such as NASA. So grade 3 is the lowest that you can get as any use in the real world. So the tolerance of these is down to 2.5 microns, which is 0.00025 of a millimeter. And there's also a ball diameter variation tolerance in these, which is 0.08 thousandth of a millimeter. They're very, very, very round indeed. Interestingly, there's also a surface roughness scale, and for grade 3, that is 0.004 micrometers. Right, you come over here, you'll see what they do with the balls once they come in. Interestingly, the inner and outer races are also paired so that they best match each other in terms of their tolerances. Once that's done, the balls themselves are placed inside the races, and then we'll come over here where they are evenly distributed, and also then is where you put the cage over the top. That cage actually is sourced quite locally, about 60 kilometers away from the Ceramicspeed factory here. Then we come over this side, and that is where you put the grease in and then the seals over the top. And after each and every step, there is human quality control, so they will make sure that it feels exactly right and perfect. And they tell me that because they do it so much, they can really feel if there's anything just slightly wrong with any individual ball bearing. Now, a lot of the bearings that you saw made in that first room will be immediately packaged up and sent off to whoever has ordered them. Some, though, are made to then come into this room, which is the aftermarket production room. This is where Ceramicspeed make all of their own products and package them up, as well as some for some other companies as well. Right, come on through. So they've got all their bottom bracket bearings ready to be made up, etc. And I guess the most visible are the oversized pulley wheel system, which you can see Martin Mortensen working on just here. Martin's a former World Tour pro for Leopard Trek. Just 2 years ago, he won one of the biggest classics in France, Trobro-Lyon, and now divides his time between racing for a continental squad, also testing products for Ceramicspeed, and making them as well. And I think that's pretty cool that the oversized pulley wheel system that you might be buying could have been made by a current professional rider. Now, as I mentioned, they also make some aftermarket upgrade kits for other companies. Got a couple of examples here, Colnago, and also, what have we got here? Trek as well. And then what I really like over here is the fact that although they are only official suppliers and sponsors to 3 World Tour squads, Quickstep, Bora and AG2R, lots of the other World Tour squads will send their bottom brackets and sometimes hubs to be upgraded here in Denmark. So even if a team is not visibly using Ceramicspeed at the very top level of the sport, they could well be. In fact, they probably are. Once each of the products is finished, it will go to quality control one last time, and it's all packaged up here and then ready in this stock room to be delivered to whoever's ordered it. It might be the national distributor, it could be a retailer, or even direct to the public. So for example here, you've got the oversized pulley wheel system, and then if people want just the jockey wheels themselves, you've got those too. It really is the best of bike porn right here. But what I want to do is take you over the road now, which is where the R&D department is, because there's some pretty cool stuff happening over there. Just before we get to that R&D department, I've got to show you a few bits that we've seen just here. 75% of Ceramicspeed's business is with sport, which is mainly cycling, but 25% caters for industry, and we have a few examples of their products just here. We also have the example of a ceramic ball right next to a steel one. And there's a very good reason why the ceramic balls are a lot more expensive, because the process to make them is very long. Basically, you start with silicon nitride, where it is then sintered and experiences pressures of 1600 bars in a press. It also experiences temperatures of 1200 degrees centigrade as well. But not only are they a lot more durable, a lot rounder, they're also 58% lighter than their steel counterparts. So as you can see, some rather large bearings for industry here, but at the other end of the scale, we've just been shown these, which are some incredibly small bearings for use up in space somewhere. 1 millimeter in diameter, or if you want to be exact, 1.00013 millimeters. Hopefully you'll be able to see them on the screen. And then just before we finish, take a look at this. This is from about 18 months ago when they first produced 3D printed pulley wheels made from titanium. How cool do they look? The pulley wheels are hollow, and even the spokes on those wheels are hollow as well. I think you've got to agree with me, that looks pretty sexy. Probably doesn't mean what I hope it means. Here we are then in the R&D testing room. One of the first things that you see is quite a few partner products. There's a Colnago C64 frame over there, and then some lightweight wheels as well. Reason being that a lot of the partner companies will, in the very first part of the design process, send their products up here to Ceramicspeed so that this company can then best spec the bearings that are perfect for their new product. Also, a lot of testing going on in this room. Firstly, there is a machine which is running some bearings through a lot of cycles, which simulates the movement of a mountain bike full suspension pivot. Because what they're finding on those mountain bikes is that those pivots are wearing out quite significantly. However, this is a Ceramicspeed one, and it's just gone through 1 million cycles in the same way as it would do on the full suspension bike, and it looks and feels exactly the same as it did at the start. It's quite remarkable. Now, in the distance, you can vaguely see two machines, which we can't show you too closely. But Ceramicspeed have invested a lot of time and money looking into drive chain friction over the last few years. And as such, in fact, they acquired a company called Friction Facts from its founder, Jason Smith, at the end of 2016. Jason's still working actually with them to this day out of his office in Boulder. The machine on the right there is a Generation 2 Friction Facts base testing machine. So with that one, they will be able to see what the losses in power are through the drive chain. After they've found the baseline level, they will then put it over to the machine on the left. That simulates real world riding conditions. So it will be changing gear, it will be producing say 250 watts for a 100 kilometer or 200 kilometer ride. After which it's then put back over to the baseline machine where they can see what's happened over the course of that ride. They've been doing a lot of testing over the last few years on different lubrications, which leads us nicely on to the next part of the factory. Actually, just before we head to that next part of the factory, you've probably noticed I've been stood next to a 3D printer, and I've just been handed a couple of examples of what it's making. So a lot of the prototype designs that they come up with, they will first 3D print with a combination of plastic and carbon, and these things can be used on the real world bike. So in fact, this one's done quite a number of kilometers already. What this is at the moment in my hand is a pulley wheel for a one-by system for mountain bikes, gravel bikes, and increasingly on road bikes as well. So that's pretty cool. You might well see the finished product in the shops in the not too distant future. We are now in the inventor's office, where there are a whole load more machines that test the durability of various products. This, as you can see, is a huge wheel drum, and on the wheel drum are two rather large bumps. So when this thing is in action, it really puts the wheel through their paces, and they can angle it slightly as well to put more stress on the central bearings there at the hub. And I understand these particular wheels have done millions of kilometers, or at least the hubs themselves have, not naming names, but they've broken a few rims in the process. And then onto the chain side of things. If you have a look over here, I love this machine. This is basically to show the wear and tear that a drive chain will go through. So on this particular day, we have got a wet lube being put onto the chain, but not only that, they're also putting some sand on every so often as well, which is probably the worst thing that you can put on a chain. What they have found, and what is fairly obvious, is that the less dirt and grime and sand, etc., that a chain attracts, the faster it is going to be when you're out riding. So this, again, will be on pretty much constantly, all day, every day, doing various different tests. Now, one of the products that Ceramicspeed offer to the general public and also to professional teams is a UFO treatment of chains to make them as fast as they possibly can be. The first and the last part of that process comes over here in this machine. Now, when you very first get a Shimano or KMC chain, it's actually not as fast as it could be. There are various imperfections, and it does gradually get faster over the first couple of 100 kilometers. And this is what this machine will do, so that once the riders eventually receive their chains, they are as fast as they possibly can be. So if I switch this on here, this will stretch the chain ever so slightly until it gets to that sweet spot. Once the chain has gone through that machine for around about 20 minutes to do that initial stretching and get the imperfections out, it then comes in to a different room just here. Here, it will be given a very thorough clean, currently with ultrasonic cleaner, but shortly they'll be moving over to a very environmentally friendly cleaner, which they have just made. Then, after that, it is dried. Then that's where the coating and the treatment begins. Firstly, there's a wax that goes on, and secondly, there's a Teflon which goes over the top of that. Once that's done, it goes back into that machine for a further 5 minutes, and then it's pretty much ready to be packaged up. This is what it will finally look like. Pretty unique and unmistakable, I think you will agree. In fact, if you are a World Tour ride on the start line of the Tour de France and you see a rider with a chain that looks like this, you're probably going to know that they're quite up for that particular stage. Now, this treatment will last these days for around about 600 kilometers. Initially, when they were first producing them, that was down at about 200, so 3 times the lifespan. So it really is for use on special occasions. But it does work because it will give you in the region of 3 to 5 watts of an advantage when you're riding at 250 watts. And that brings us to the end of our factory tour, which I hope you have enjoyed just as much as I have. What I particularly like about CeramicSpeed as a company is that not only are their products handmade here at their headquarters in Denmark, but also all of the machinery that they use to do the testing, some which you have seen and some which we haven't been able to show you, that is also bespoke and handmade here as well. Now, I'm sure you've got lots more questions as to why you might want to use ceramic bearings and balls on your bike and the UFO treatment, etc., etc. And don't worry, lots more details about that and also what goes into the making of a ceramic ball are coming up in an upcoming video, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, if you have yet to see the latest GCN Tech Show, you can click down here, and I am now off for a ride in that, on the road.